guys. Well, we've had this current administration in for about a year now. A lot of things have happened over this year. Mostly not really good. But if there's one thing we've all noticed, it's that big 500-pound gorilla in the room. Not me. But we're going to call it inflation. In case you haven't noticed, the prices of everything have pretty much gone up. Some really, really high. So I think we need to talk about that. So that's what we're going to do. We'll talk about where it came from, how it got here, how long it's going to be here. But more importantly, maybe we need to talk about how we can live with it. Because a lot of folks are having a hard time with it right now. And maybe I can share just a few helpful tips about it. So, let's take this thing back into the studio. It's cold out here. And let's just talk about it. Much better, much better. All right, so let's get right on into it. What is inflation? To most of us, it's just what we say. Prices of services and goods just keep going up, and our income, well, pretty much doesn't. Now, these goods don't go up all at the same rate. For instance, gas and fuel prices have gone up about 60%, while grocery items, well, have gone up about 10 to 20%. And rent and mortgage, well, it's just through the roof. So it pretty much, to us, inflation is the cost of living goes up, or our income doesn't, and hence our dollar doesn't buy what it used to. There's a couple of types of inflation. You have demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. They're both basically the same thing, except they happen for different reasons. And we're not really going to go into that because it's really, really boring. Boring, I tell you. Now, while inflation doesn't go at the same rate across the board, it's just the same can be said for folks on different income levels. For instance, top 10%, inflation is not more than just a minor inconvenience to them. Get down to the middle income folks, where they have mortgages and have to raise a family and everything. Well, they have to start making some decisions, cut back here and there. But when you get down to the lower run, people on fixed incomes, pensions, government subsidies, inflation forces some terrible, terrible choices. Have to make some really tough decisions and a lot of times sacrifices. That's why inflation is usually called the disproportionate tax on the poorest among us. And it's usually a direct result of government interference. And it's no different in this case. So basically, inflation is just too much money chasing too few goods. Okay. So here's the deal. For 2 years, both state and federal government have, in different degrees, locked down society. They've closed or caused to close a lot of businesses, most of them small and medium-sized businesses. Now, these businesses contribute roughly 64% to the workforce. So you lose that many people out of the workforce, the effects are going to be profound, let me tell you, and really cripple productivity. And you compound that with an unprecedented amount of government aid to businesses and individuals, and there's a lot of corruption in that, and we'll talk about that in another video. But that's to the tune of more than $6 trillion. That's trillion with a T. Okay, that's a lot of money. and it was just printed out of thin air, nothing to back it up. And if you add that much money to the dollars going around already, well, that just deflates the amount of value these dollars have. Okay. So here's what's happened. The government has loaded an extra 40% of worthless dollars to our money supply. And at the same time, we have cut productivity by about 30%. Productivity is the ability to produce goods for society. So that's down 30%, money rate's up 40%, and there you have it. You have inflation. So what does it look like? What's the future look like? Well, we've all heard the word transitory.
How's that working out for you?
How we deal with it is going to tell us how long it's going to be. I personally think no matter what we do, if we do anything, that we're going to see high inflation for 2022. The Federal Reserve, is getting ready to raise rates, which they normally do in an inflationary cycle. That's their part to kind of fight it. But again, we might see some relief here and there, but it's not going to be anything major. I will say this, the American economy is strong and it's robust. And if we just get out of the way, we can get out of this inflation pretty fast, okay? But a couple of things need to happen. First, the government needs to just get out of the way, okay? Stop printing money like it's growing on a tree. It doesn't, okay? And they need to stop attacking the energy sector. The energy sector is the heart of this economic machine, okay? And I'm talking primarily fossil fuels, okay? We need to get out of the way, let these guys do what they do, okay? The last thing Americans need is to pay through the nose for something we have plenty of. Yes, I like clean energy, I like green energy. I think it's more of a combination of both, but we'll talk about that in another video. Second, we need to get people back to work, folks, okay? We need to quit giving them incentive to not work. We need to drop these mandates. We need to keep people from being afraid to go to work, okay? On the wage issue, I'm sympathetic with it. But that's also another topic for another time. A lot of problems can be solved if government just get out of the way. But for right now, inflation's with us. We're going to have to live with it. And so I thought we'd take a look at a few tips to help live with this big gorilla in the room. Again, not me. Okay, number one, because inflation doesn't affect everything at the same rate, it's time to draw up a budget, okay? You may have been spending X amount of dollars on fuel, or you're going to spend about 60% more for the same amount of fuel, okay? So you need to sit down with your budget and you might have to reallocate resources, might have to trim back here and there, might not go to a movie as often, or go out to eat as often. So you just got to learn to budget your money.
Just do it.
I have to do it, and everybody should be doing it. And number two, a good way to fight inflation is to increase your income. Okay, you want it to keep pace with inflation. That way you're not losing money, losing ground. For low-skilled employees, it's going to be tougher. But still, you can try to negotiate a higher salary. Okay. You can also look into getting some part-time work. or there's a lot of money-making opportunities online. Get creative. Think outside of the box. For people on a fixed income, those people on pensions and government subsidies, disability, Social Security, it's going to be a lot tougher. You're going to have to make some really tough decisions, probably a lot of sacrifice too. But it can be done. And again, try to look at ways, you don't want to solely rely on the government. That's something you really don't want to do. And they're allowed to make us so much before it affects your disability, Social Security. So get creative again. Take a part-time job. Plenty of jobs out there. Okay? Maybe look online for a few money-making opportunities. Okay. And number 4, now's a good time to look at your debt load. Okay. What do you owe? What do you got going out every month? Okay. You got your utilities, which you probably don't have a lot of say-so over. Your phone, you might have a few things in there you can cut. Your streaming services, might be time to cancel a few of those for the time being. And you've got your cable, and you can negotiate your cable bill. Don't let anybody tell you can't. I've done it. Okay? So there's a lot of creative ways to reduce your debt load there. If you owe money on a credit card, a lot of people don't know this, but you can negotiate with the credit card companies for lower interest rates. There's whole industries, devoted to that. So don't think they're the only ones that can do it. You can do it. All you got to do is pick up the phone and give them a call. Okay. Now might be a good time to refinance your home before the Fed jacks those rates up. Okay, get it locked into a fixed rate. That way, when the rates go up, you're going to save some money. You're going to save thousands of dollars on your mortgage if you do that. So look into it. Let's talk about investing. Okay, I'm not a financial broker, just to let you know. Okay, I'm not licensed, and don't take my advice solely. Talk to an investment broker before you make any decisions. But savings, putting your money in a savings account is generally not a good thing to do. Namely, because the banks do not pay enough interest to keep up with inflation. So technically, you're losing money for every dollar you have in the bank. Okay. If you are capable of investing, stay away from what they call debt investments. Okay, that's things like bonds, and municipal bonds, government bonds, things like that. Okay, because again, the interest you're going to be making off of those is not going to keep pace with inflation. Okay, and what you want to look into is equity investments. Okay, that's like stocks, mutual funds, which kind of spreads it around a little bit, and real estate, real good. Because the economy is going to grow, and equity investments will only grow with it. But again, talk to an advisor before you actually do this. And that's about it for right now. I hope this has kind of opened your eyes a little bit. Maybe get to creative juices thinking about how you can personally learn to live with inflation, because we're all going to have to do it. Okay? There's no getting around it. I don't expect the government's going to want to do much print more money and just make everybody's money that much worthless. Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom, folks. Okay, we've done this before. Some of you might remember the late 70s, early 80s. We've done this before, and we can do it again. It's just going to take some discipline and some wise choices. I like to say, that's a wrap. Thank you very much.